So for people who don't know who you are, how do you explain who Brock Johnson is? I know who you are. I followed you for a while, and full disclosure, I'm part of INSTACLUBHub, so I want people to know that. It was a Black Friday deal I couldn't pass up. I mean, come on now.
Right? It was, I know our Black Friday deal was pretty massive this year. But how do I describe what I do? It really depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm meeting a neighbor or someone who I get the inclination that they are not going to understand what I'm about to say, I usually just say marketing.
Okay.
Like we had some work done on our house, and when I met anyone, like any of the contractors, I would just say marketing. And that usually is a basic enough answer that gives them an idea and they don't ask questions. If they do ask questions, or if I have the idea that, they might know a little bit more of what I'm talking about, social media marketing, but really most specifically, Instagram growth coach. Like to someone who's in the industry and knows what I'm saying. I help people grow their brand or their business on Instagram.
Okay, so then my follow-up question is literally, where did you come from? Because all of a sudden, it was your mom, Shailene, and you everywhere all over my feed. And so, like, we're in a similar business. I'm focusing more on creating content myself now, as opposed to, like, getting clients. But, like, where the hell did you come from? Did you just follow your own advice and just start, like, literally attacking Instagram? Or, like, was this a foresight? What happened? How did we get here?
Yes, this is such a great question. So my mom came before me because the chicken came before the egg. She's been in marketing and business for like 30 years, since before I was born. She is most well known, or at least was most well known, for her background in the fitness industry. So if you've ever turned on your TV at like 3 a.m., especially if you turned on your TV at 3 a.m. like a decade ago, you would have seen my mom, little blonde lady teaching fitness videos and selling infomercials. But she was really, and she said this herself, she was really successful in the fitness world because of her knowledge of marketing and because of her understanding of human psychology and what makes people buy and how to sell. And so I learned from entrepreneurial parents. I was raised in a family where my parents owned businesses my whole life. They did marketing their whole lives. And so I got to kind of absorb that organically. And then fast forward, this kind of like the speed dating version of my life story. My freshman year of college, I was like, I need to cut the financial umbilical cord. I felt icky using mommy and daddy's credit card when I was a college football player. So when I had teammates who couldn't do that, who didn't have that luxury. And while I knew it was a blessing, it felt weird having that silver spoon in my mouth. But like I said, I was a college student athlete. And so I couldn't work a 9 to 5. I couldn't make money in like the traditional sense. So I knew I had to become an entrepreneur. Fortunately, I had quite a few lessons already learned about becoming an entrepreneur. And so I started with, this is going to sound funny, helping moms keep their kids safe on Snapchat. That was like my original thing. I had an online course. But then that very quickly evolved into, hey, I had now taught all of these moms how to use Snapchat. And a lot of them were small business owners. A lot of them were network marketers. So they were like, well, how do we market on Snapchat? And this was back in the days before Instagram stories even existed. And so I was like, well, I could help you out with that because that's basically what I just did. So sure, I could help you out with that. And then that grew from Snapchat into Instagram as Instagram released Instagram stories. And so I started coaching people on how to grow on Instagram. And ever since then, it has very much been, I'm going to lead by example. I am very data driven. I like to have fun. I'm goofy. I'm enthusiastic. But the East Coaster in me, which I'm a Californian, but the East Coaster in me is I'm data driven. I'm very direct when it comes to the science of social media. And so as soon as I either figure something out or I hear a new strategy or there's some podcast I listen to with some tip, I'm going to try it out for myself. If it works, I'm going to report on it to my audience. But I'm just going to keep doing what works. And what I learned about, I don't know, probably 5-6 years ago now is, as not fun as this is to hear, the more you post, the more you grow. At least on Instagram, there's a direct correlation between post rate and growth rate. Numerous studies have confirmed this. It's not fun to hear that because that can also be said as the more you work, the more time you spend, the better the results will be. So since then, I've been posting uber consistently, hyper consistency. One of my buddies deemed hyper consistency as like my superpower. And that is truly how I've been able to, as you said, and I take it as a compliment, show up everywhere on your feed.
Hell
Like
yeah.
I love hearing that from people. It's like, hey, every time I open my Instagram, there you are. Every time I scroll on my reels, there you are. That's a goal of mine. And that goal is achieved through my hyper consistency.
Is that focusing on organic reach, or did you pay Meta? Like, or did you double down on some ads?
So we've added ads after the fact, but since day one, it's been like the hyper consistency. Like I said, going back probably 6-7 years ago, it's been hyper consistency. We have added ads since then, but the ads almost exclusively do not drive to my page, my profile. They drive to our business. They drive to the INSTACLUBHub. But also usually the best ads, the best performing posts that are ads were the best performing posts to begin with. They were the best organic posts. And then we just boost them to reach more people.
That's what I tell everybody. Just do the thing and then like look at your data and then just double down on what did well. So you're originally a Californian. I've been like frozen because of the wildfires going on right now. I feel like I can't post anything fun. I can't show up in the way that I wanted to. And I literally just stopped because I was like, just give the wildfires and helping everybody in California space. Am I being dumb? Is that something is that stupid? Like, what should I be doing right now? And we can, replace wildfires with any other huge tragedy that's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. Something else is going to happen. So how am I supposed to show up for myself as a content creator for my business in this time?
Yeah, such a good question, such a relevant question. I did a solo episode on my podcast about this. It was one of the worst performing podcasts I've ever done, which was disappointing because I know this is something that so many people grapple with. And it's something that I grapple with myself, especially as a Southern Californian. And so I'll tell you how I handled this specific instance and how that relates to how I handle these things in general. I had a post up on my story yesterday morning when I was aware of the fires, but I wasn't quite aware of the destruction that was truly happening yet. And also they literally hadn't spread and destructed as much as they have now. And it was like 28 days from now, I'm going to Japan. It's something on my bucket list. And so I posted this like enthusiastic, huge smile. I'm elated. I'm going to Japan in 28 days and I couldn't be more excited. After a few hours, I deleted that because I felt weird celebrating when I know so many of my friends and family are evacuating. So that's for me like a specific example of something that I changed, and specifically on my stories, because stories are meant to be documentary. They're supposed to be in the moment, day of, more relevant or recent to what's going on in the world. And so that felt weird to leave that up. I don't think I would have gotten any backlash. I don't think anyone would have gotten mad at me for that. But personally, on my own personal level, that was something I didn't enjoy. In terms of my feed, I know that 99.9% of my followers are not from Southern California. And as sad as this is to say, a lot of my followers don't even care about the fires going on right now. And so at the end of the day, I know that my niche, and I've been very clear with how I show up on my Instagram feed, it is 95% Instagram growth tips. The other 5% might be like me and my wife or like something personal to try to get people to connect with me on a deeper level. But most of it's Instagram growth tips. I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about world news. I don't talk about those issues. And even saying this is controversial because some people absolutely believe that silence is violence. Some people believe that as an influencer, it is my duty, my responsibility to comment on these things. I view myself first and foremost as an Instagram teacher. And I know that if I comment on my political views, if I comment on, disasters, be they natural or unnatural, a lot of people are going to unfollow me. And my concern is not the vanity. My concern is not, oh no, I'm going to lose some followers. My concern is people are going to be emotional. People are going to respond irrationally. They're going to unfollow me, which I don't care personally, but I know that it will hurt them in the future because now a moment of me wanting to speak up on something, whatever, has caused them to no longer get any more value from me in the future. And I know that's their decision, but ultimately with my community, I value the ability to continue teaching them more than I value my own stances and political views and opinions. So I keep all that stuff off my social. But the long and short of this is it's up to each individual. Like, what hills are you willing to die on? What is that important to you? How do you want to use your own platform and influence? Because we all have a platform and influence, whether you've got 300K or 300 followers. And so ultimately it's up to each person in their own discretion to decide what truly matters for them to talk about.
I love that. And I feel like it's not going to hurt the algorithm or getting noticed. Actually, maybe taking some time and space, if that's truly what I feel like I personally need, may help when I start posting again, because the Instagram's going to be like, oh my God, she's back.
Exactly. Like taking a few days off, taking even a few weeks off, it will not like throw you in Instagram jail for the rest of your life.
I love that. Well, I think people get so scared because it's like this sink or swim feeling. And I have a little production company. I help people batch create. Like, these podcast episodes are amazing because that's like months worth of content and videos. It's incredible. What I've tried to pivot to for me personally is being more of a content creator and then vlogging the behind the scenes of doing the thing. Because as somebody with ADHD, it's very hard for me to create a calendar, even though I did the INSTACLUBHub calendar, by the way, which is incredible. So I'm going to utilize it as the, like, I don't know what to do today. What does the calendar say? So it's like the perfect backup plan. But for people who have no idea what to do, it's incredible because it's perfectly laid out. And I'll put a link to it. Well, I'll put a link to InstaClubHub and then how to join. I hope
it's going to be an affiliate link.
Do we start affiliate links? Did we start that program?
We have an affiliate program for the InstaClubHub, and the payout is significant.
Okay,
so I'll send you the link for that. We'll definitely make sure that's an InstaClubHub
100%, absolutely, because I believe in what you guys are doing. I love the way, just your energy. I love it.
Thank you.
The goal was to show myself doing the thing, to show people how I'm doing a thing. And then my niche is literally like moms with ADHD who want to be content creators, who want to create more content. And the thing I tell everybody is post what you're living and stop living to post. And Instagram stories is huge, has become huge in that for me, because you sort of just, like you said earlier, it's just sort of, you document your day. You just kind of throw it up there. And so, it's a game, right? Like, Instagram gives you points because you showed up today. Maybe you didn't have time to edit a reel. Or you want to sit down and have AI like edit the clips for you, whatever it is. But stories are so easy to show up in. Why do you feel like it's such an underutilized part of the platform?
I think because you can, and many people do, post numerous stories a day, people think it's like a one-to-one thing. And what I mean by that is they're comparing one reel to one story, and the time, energy, and effort that it takes to create one reel is in most cases going to be significantly more than one story, but people think it's equal. And so the idea of like, oh my gosh, I got to post all these stories every day. No, it's like literally like I could do one right now without even ending this sentence. I could just open up Instagram stories, and I'm doing this while we speak, and I'm taking an Instagram story just like that. Boom, done. That's an Instagram story. But people have this thought that there's like this production value. And one of my best performing posts from last year was, I said, stop with the Canva Instagram stories. Like, if you're opening Canva to graphically design an Instagram story, quit it. It's supposed to be quick, brief, in the moment. And so I think that's why it feels daunting to people, is they don't give themselves that permission to be quick, brief, in the moment. And oftentimes, many times, imperfect or, flawed or have mistakes in their story or whatever.
Well, I think that's so funny, because talking about imperfect, I feel like, and you're the data guy, is Instagram making that shift? Because people used to always say, oh, Instagram perfect, Instagram perfect. Are we making that TikTok shift to this is the reality of my life and it's not always great? Are we moving towards that? Like, I hate the word authentic now. I feel like we overuse authentic.
I know, it's such a buzzword.
It's like a buzzword now. But are we Are you giving people permission to be more real on Instagram and not have to be so perfect? Like, I looked at your feed. Your feed's similar to my feed. It's not perfect. It's not like all the perfect colors together. I literally stopped making Canva covers because I was like, this is taking more time than it took me to edit the damn reel. I just make like, I do captions a little bit bigger in one portion of the video, and that's just my cover. And I'm like, I don't care anymore. I just need to get it out.
Yeah. We're there. We're not moving there. We're there.
Okay.
I think that it was something that was like beginning in 2018, 2019. And then 2020 just accelerated the heck out of, first of all, so many more people were on social and spending more time on social from 2020 to 2022. And so it forced us to, coupled with the fact that we're all locked in our homes, nothing's really pretty, no one's going on vacation, it forced us to embrace this buzzword, authenticity, forced us to embrace the imperfections, the realness, and also the ease of creating a photoshopped selfie has exponentially increased. In 2014, the editing apps were very elementary and they were not very good. Now you could download any number of 40 free apps on the App Store and make yourself look like a Kardashian in a few clicks. And so this fake photoshopped life, is much more obvious now. It's like, okay, we see right through that. We see what's going on. B, it's much more easily obtainable. So it's not this thing that's like unique. It's not this thing that is hard to obtain. It's not this thing that is only for the few. It's like we all have it now. We all can download these apps. And so it's not special anymore. It's not the unique thing. And so for all of those reasons, I think people are just kind of over the BS. People are over the fake photoshopped perfected life. There are definitely still some people and some influencers who make a living with that style of content, and they're kind of known for that. There's even like the hyperbolized version of that content in Nara Smith. If anyone's familiar with her content, she's like, oh, well, my partner, we ran out of toothpaste, so I'm going to make him toothpaste at home. And she's showing
in a wedding, like in a gown.
Yeah, like in this and she's a model and her partner's a model, and it's like it's a character, it's a shtick, it's a thing. Like there's no way that they're like that in real life. And if they are, kudos to them because they're taking 14 hours to make themselves toothpaste.
And it's working for her though on both ends, whether you hate her or you 100%. Love her. You want to see what
you hate her or you love her.
The
engagement's through the roof.
Exactly.
Yeah, but all of that to say, no, embrace the imperfection, embrace the typo. I mean, my title on Instagram says Instagram growth coach, but when I first changed it, I made a typo and it said Instagram growth coach. But because I was verified and because of some other thing, I was locked in for 60 days. And so I was Instagram growth coach for like 2 months. So embrace the flaws, embrace the imperfections. Not only are they what people want and crave and will love you for, but they also allow you to be more free and to be yourself and to enjoy social media rather than constantly stressing like it's your essay that you got to turn in 6th grade.
I love that. What advice can you give me or to anybody that is a social media manager? Or anybody in this realm that it's like, okay, I'm going to finally like get in the game about return on investment. That is the hardest thing for me to explain to people. They think in 1 month they're going to go viral and it's going to change their lives. And it's like, no. Like, why are we doing this? Number one, like, why are we even doing social media at all? And then number two, like, no, it doesn't work that way. It could take 6 months. It could take a year, like depending on obviously what the goal is and what their niche is. I think certain niches, tick a little bit faster. But how do you explain to people, like, how do you manage expectations on return on investment with Instagram and social media?
Yeah, this is such an interesting topic because if we were to think about, like, if I were to ask anyone, like, how do you become a great basketball player? How do you become a great pianist? They would be like, well, you practice and you show up for years and years and you probably work with a coach or someone who's done it before or someone who can kind of guide you along the way. And you just literally decades of practice to become an expert. Okay. How do you grow on social media? Well, you post a reel and you go viral overnight. And it's like, where did the disconnect happen? And I understand where it did because it is faster on social media. And there are those 0.001% of people who their first video goes viral, they get 100,000 followers and their business blows up from it. That happens, but it's the exception. It's not the norm. However, we see that, and we're all egotistical humans, so we all believe that we are the exception. None of us believe that we are the norm. And so, while yes, social media is faster, it's not going to take you 30 years to become, an expert, or let's translate expert, someone with a large following on social media. It's also not going to take you a week or two. It's probably going to take months, and it might even, for many people, take years. And so I think managing that expectation going into things helps avoid burnout. It helps just set the tone. And I think that when people get started, many people make the mistake of setting the goal of, my goal for 2025 is 10,000 followers. My goal for the next 3 months is this many likes, this many views. You can't control views, at least not directly. You can't control likes or followers directly. You can't force people to press their finger on that follow button. But what you can control is your own level of consistency. So rather than setting 10,000 followers in 2025, what if your goal was, I want to post 300 times in 2025? So a little bit less than once a day, or maybe every day of 2025. Something like that is something that you can control much, much better. And that will lend itself to your ultimate goal of growing your following, your views, your business, etc.
That's exactly what my goal was. It's never been followers. It's just to stay consistent and show up for myself. Because last year it was really focusing. I went through my camera roll and I was like, oh my God, I just focused on everybody else's brand and growing everybody else's brand. And I didn't do the thing like showing up for myself. And so this year it's hard to say no to money, right? It's hard to say no to potential clients, but I had to make myself my own client and like literally block out that time to create. I love doing this. I love editing. I love all the things. The other thing I had was also realizing that I can't do all the things. Hiring a VA and hiring editors. I have short form editors and I have long form editors. The hardest thing for me to give up though are the vlogs. I started with trying to do a daily vlog. It's not working out.
That's tough.
It is
daily
is so tough. It's insane to me, only because I got into the rhythm of recording, but I like to edit myself because I know in my head where those edits are, where like the soundbite was, what I wanted to add. Does that make sense? And so to outsource that, I'm like, that's not going to work for me, but I'm not getting to the time to edit because I've got the 10 other things I have to focus on, and being a wife and a mom and running another business. We have a construction company too. So it's like, oh my gosh, why did I set this goal? So I'm probably going to revise the goal. We might just be vlogging once a week, and the focus is long form on YouTube. And then I cut those up into short form. Exactly what I'm doing with the podcast, because I was like, wait, I can sit and take the time, and I know I can quickly edit the longer form instead of like trying to focus on these little short forms and putting that together.
Smart.
And so, my goal was literally just to show up for myself this year. It's not about followers. I tried not to put a number on it. I started to be like, I want to post 3 times a day, one of like a podcast episode, one of like a how to do and what to do, and then one vlog. And then I'm just like, this is not going to work. When did you realize while growing this business that you had to start outsourcing help, that you had to hire VAs or editors? Like at what point were you like, shit, growth is inevitable and I can't do this alone?
I was really fortunate that I hired before I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to. Oh my gosh, this is a necessity. Oh my gosh, I'm burning out. Again, I think I was really fortunate to grow up in an entrepreneurial family, and I had been stressed. It had been stressed to me since day one to outsource and hire help. And so when I launched that first business, within like the first 6 months, and really the first business was just a course. It wasn't a fully fledged business. It was a single product, an online course that I was selling, teaching moms how to keep their kids safe on Snapchat. I hired a virtual assistant. And I remember when I hired her because I thought that was the right thing to do, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And it is to a certain extent, but it's also, I like had no idea what to tell her to do, like what her daily tasks and responsibilities were. I'm pretty sure her only responsibility at that point was like combing the web for news alerts and news stories that related to Snapchat. That was it. And she would like send me like maybe a weekly list of these headlines. She wasn't breaking them down. She probably just had like Google alerts turned on and just like copy and paste the link. But it was because of that initial hire that all of the subsequent hires that really made a real difference and that I really needed for my business, they felt a lot easier because I was like, oh, I've done this before. I've already hired someone. And because I had hired someone, I felt like I had responsibility to more than just myself, because I think it's very easy to cheat yourself. Like if you're like, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning and go for a run. It's very easy at 6 a.m. when that alarm goes off to like hit the snooze button and go back to sleep. But if your buddy, your neighbor is like, hey, I'm going to meet you at the park and we're going to go for a run at 6 a.m. When that alarm goes off at 6 a.m., you're like, as tired as you are, you're going to get out of bed and you're going to meet them there because you have someone else holding you accountable. That's kind of what it's like when you hire someone. Is now all of a sudden you have like all these other people who are counting on you, who their income, their livelihood depends on you showing up and putting in the work. And so you work more efficient, you work smarter, you work harder, you produce better outcomes. And I don't know like all the scientific magical reasons behind it, but it's crazy the difference in revenue that we generated in our business. And at that point it was because it was me and my VA, that we generated in the month after I hired her compared to the 6 months prior.
So it's basically, again, return on investment, right? With that and growth, there's only so many hours in a day. And I think that's the hardest thing for me, especially with ADHD, because it's like, you have so many ideas and you're like, I want to do all the things. And then you realize you have to niche down, you have to focus on like one thing, but also there's only so many hours in the day. And I think that was the hardest part for me. So I'm trying to, as the new year started, maybe people set certain goals for themselves. I want them to know, like, it's okay to pivot. It's okay if it's like, hey, this isn't working out in the way that I anticipated. You don't have to keep trying to reach, I think, beyond what's possible. Does that make sense? So like, yes, Brock says post more, and you can absolutely post more, but there's also ways to do that in a smarter way, which is batch creating. I'm a huge believer in batch creating. I think it's such an incredible thing. And then if you can outsource that to an editor, it's handed back to you on a silver platter. And I know that's like a huge thing that you agree with as well. And then no one's saying that you can't pull out the phone if you have an idea or like something immediately comes to you and you're like, wait, I'm on a walk and talk, or I'm walking my dog and I'm like, I have something I want to say. You can still record and add to that. My question to you though with posting is, I feel like I do the morning, the afternoon, and the evening post. I almost want to post a little bit more, but every time I post a little bit more, it's almost like TikTok does this to me and Instagram does this to me. It's almost, it thinks I'm a bot. And it sort of like slows certain things down. I think that's what it appears to be. Can I keep posting more? Like, or do I just ignore that that's happening to me and just keep putting stuff out when I'm so inclined to do it? Or should I pull back and just stick to like morning, noon, night?
There's the audience answer and the algorithm answer. The algorithm answer is the more you post, the more you grow. And typically, to like zoom in, or I guess zoom out a little bit more on that, in the short term, as you increase your frequency, views and engagement typically decrease. So you're usually going to see less, everything's going to slow down in the short term. But in the long term, when you zoom out all the way and you look at it over the course of multiple months, the growth returns, the engagement returns, and the overall numbers are trending up and to the right. But it sucks because for the first few weeks, it feels like that's horrible advice. And you're like, oh my gosh, everything's going downhill. That's the algorithmic answer. The audience-centric answer is that every audience is different. So while I say the more you post, the more you grow, there are exceptions to every air quotes rule. And there are some audiences that prefer 1 post a day, 3 posts a day, 7 posts a day. Depends a lot on, your niche, the kind of content, what each post is. Excuse me. And so some audiences, they're really averse to high frequencies of posting. But that can only really be determined through experimentation with higher and lower frequencies of posting.
That's why I wanted to rotate it with the different themes, not like the same video 3 times a day, 3 completely different niches and 3 completely different videos. And one of them being the vlog and the personality, because everybody just loves my personality. No. What are your thoughts? And I've talked about this in like courses that I've done. Meta sort of took away our audiences, right? Our organic reach is what, 1% now? Is that right?
Super low.
Like really low, right? So if you don't have a lot of followers, 1% is like nobody's watching. They took it away and they made billions of dollars. So they're not going to just give it back to you. They took away our audiences. I'm pushing YouTube. I really am, because I truly feel like maybe YouTube and long form should be your anchor, and then you use the short form to promote to the longer form. I know you've got podcasts on Apple and Spotify. I know you have a channel on YouTube. What is your strategy? I just don't think it's fair. I feel like Meta sort of like took it away from us and is like, now you have to pay us. I mean, I know you're an Instagram coach, so maybe you don't want to talk about it. But to me, it was just like, I just didn't feel like it was fair. But it's business and I get it. But I'm now going to convert to YouTube and put more time and effort into that. It's so slow for me. But again, to me, success is I showed up and I posted. What are your thoughts about Meta and Instagram and utilizing other platforms?
I think, and this is my honest opinion, this is my no BS opinion. I'm interviewing, I don't know if I can say this publicly yet because we haven't signed a contract, and I don't know if I'm going to have to sign an NDA, but I'm interviewing Instagram CEO in the next few months. And what I'm about to say to you, I don't care if he hears this. I don't think, and this is not to kiss his ass. I don't believe that Meta is intentionally on a large scale reducing the reach of all creators in order to get us to pay, to run ads, to boost posts. I actually believe it is simply an issue of supply and demand. I think that from 2020 to 2023, there was a proliferation of a boom in small business, people creating content online, people being fed up with how much they were making in their 9 to 5, people realizing that inflation was increasing and they had to add a side hustle. They had to start becoming an entrepreneur to provide for themselves in ways that their 9 to 5 compensation was not going to. So I believe that, coupled with people like me saying, the more you post, the more you grow. So now we have more people posting more content. Also, it's easier to post content, right? We're talking specifically about feeds. There's B-roll reels, and it's simpler to post on TikTok and reels than really anywhere else. And so there's so much more supply, but demand, you could argue, is decreased. I think it'd be really hard to argue that demand is up. Demand, if anything, is equal. I would argue it's probably decreased over the last few years, because a few years ago, we were all locked in our homes having 17 hours of screen time a day just watching reels. Now we're out and about, we're living our lives again, we're going out into the world. So demand decreases, supply increases. That's an imbalance that's going to lead to a drastic drop off in reach and views. And that's why we've seen the same thing happen on TikTok. Like when you compare Instagram to TikTok, you see almost an exact same trend in terms of a decrease in views. And that's because you've seen almost an equal rise and fall of supply and demand. YouTube and podcasting takes a lot of work. It's a much slower burn. It's not as fun. It's a lot higher production value. And so we haven't seen the same. We've definitely seen an increase in YouTubers and podcasters and long form creators, but it's nowhere near equal to the rise that we've seen in short form creators. And so for those reasons, that's why I think views are down. There might be a slight leaning. And I think in 2024, there was definitely a leaning towards the advertising content. There was literally tens of millions of dollars being spent daily on political advertising in the US. But I don't think it's necessarily that Instagram wants us to pay. It's more that they were giving preferential treatment to those who were paying, which just exacerbated the issue that we were already facing.
Okay, well, let's talk about the content saturation, right? If there is a TikTok ban, what is going to happen with Instagram? Are people going to push it to Instagram? Are we going to go to YouTube? Or are they just going to go out for walks and read books? Like TikTok, my TikTok audience is not my Instagram audience, is not my YouTube audience. They're all totally different people. What is going to happen?
I agree. And there's no chance that the TikTokers are just going to be like, you know what? TikTok's gone. I'm going to become a Buddhist and I'm deleting my phone. I'm throwing it out the window. There's no chance. I believe that they are going to go to a platform that is similar to TikTok. So basically a platform that has short form vertical video. A. And B, I believe it's going to be a platform that's already established. I don't believe it's going to be Lemonade or one of these new up and coming apps. I believe it's going to be YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. Those are going to be the two biggest winners if TikTok does get banned, which I get messages all the time like, okay, like, is it actually? I don't know. Like, I literally, for years, I've been saying there's no way, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's what I've been doing with the TikTok ban. I've been expecting no way is it going to get banned. And then we get one step closer to it getting banned. So I don't know. What I do think is in terms of Instagram and YouTube Shorts, but Instagram and YouTube, what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a period of, I would say, roughly a few months, I don't know exactly how long, where there will be more viewers, aka consumers, joining these platforms than creators. Because in the short term, people are going to be like, well, TikTok is going away. And so I'm going to start experimenting and consuming content more regularly on Reels and on YouTube Shorts. Eventually, the people who are crushing it on TikTok are going to figure out how to crush it on Instagram and YouTube, and they'll come over and they'll dominate. But I also think it's important to recognize, and I feel like this isn't talked about enough. It's not like TikTok ban goes into effect and boom, TikTok's deleted off our phone.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people way smarter than me explain this, but essentially, if TikTok does get banned, it just means that it can't be downloaded by anyone new without a virtual private network. And it can't be updated in the App Store. So you could still use it the day after it was banned, and you probably won't notice any differences. When you'll start to notice differences is a few weeks or months later, as the glitches start to pile up, the malfunctions in the code start to add on top of themselves, and the coders, the software designers at TikTok can't fix them because they can't roll out any app updates because the app is not on the App Store anymore. And eventually TikTok will just break. And we'll be like, well, I can't even open this app. It takes 17 minutes to load a 5-second video. And then everyone will peace out and leave TikTok. That's what will happen if TikTok does get banned. But again, I have no idea if it will.
So then what happens to all of us Instagrammers that rely on Instagram and don't necessarily want all those people from TikTok to move over here to then oversaturate it even more? Like, do I have to post 10 times a day now? Like, what do I do?
I think the nice thing is that while there might be an influx of TikTok users, that will quickly be followed by TikTok creators. And so I think that the Instagram and YouTube algorithms will basically just adjust to incorporate all these new people. So it won't be like, to use easy numbers, it won't be like we go from 8 viewers to 10 viewers and those 2 additional viewers are non-ideal. It'll be like we go from 8 to 10, but we also add in some new creators as well. And so maybe those 2 people, they see your stuff and they're not interested. And so they're not really going to stay engaged. They're going to flock to the TikTokers who are making their way onto Instagram. So I think in the short term, it will be a boost in views. And in the long term, it will be a wash. It will be basically no noticeable change. Besides, I do think the overall level of quality of content will increase. I do think it will be a more enjoyable experience because I don't know about anyone else. My personal favorite platform to consume content is, at least short form content, is TikTok. And so I think Reels will become more TikTokified in that it's enjoyable to scroll.
So the 2 words that you just used that I talk about all the time, creator versus consumer. And what I tell clients consistently is stop being a consumer, flip to being a creator. Stop doom scrolling. You only post with purpose. You engage with purpose. Meaning, again, to me, it's a game, right? The Instagram is going to give you points for showing up. You posted on something. You liked something. You followed something. Do that before you post. But that's the only time you should be on. When you make that mental flip to I'm a creator, I'm not a consumer, it changes so many things in your life, including finding time all of a sudden to post, because that's the biggest complaint is I don't have time to do it. You don't have time? Really? Or are you consuming it so you don't have time to create it? And I think that's a huge mental flip that people need to make is I am a creator. I'm not a consumer. And I just started seeing people looking at content completely differently from that perspective. Is that something that you teach people in InstaClubHub and in everything that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are always going to be times where it's okay to turn your brain off and, be that mindless zombie consumer. But I'm a much bigger fan of conscious consumption, both in like the real world and the things that we buy, but also with social media, because if you are listening to this podcast, which means that you want to grow your brand, you want to grow your business, you want to, provide for yourself with social media, success leaves clues. And so with every single video, every single post that you see, every podcast you listen to, every YouTube video you watch, there are clues that you can pull from. Why did I watch this video? What did I like? What did I not like? What about the hook made me keep watching? And the same can go if it's a video that you scrolled by. If there was a post that you like instantly scroll, why was that? What was it in the hook? Was there an audio? Was there something in the video? Was there something in the caption? Was there something in the way the person spoke? Was there a word they used that was a turnoff for you? And just paying attention to all of those little things, that's how you get 1% better each day. Yes, you can learn from your own posting and your own experiences and your own stuff, but you're also seeing literally tens of thousands of other posts in the day that are also opportunities to glean a few little tidbits of information and a few little key secrets to success.
Well, in that vein, does it bother you when people straight up copy you? Right? Because a lot of times it's just like follow somebody who's doing it better than you and just do what they're doing. Does that piss you off as a creator? And someone who's teaching this, who's literally making a life doing the thing? Or are you just like, whatever, it?
Personally, I don't care. I really don't. I think when people literally like repost exactly what I've posted and they don't tag me, I think that's weird because like I'm in it, but I don't care. There's so much of that going around. I don't want to put any energy towards it. I've got enough to do as a business owner. I've got enough to do worrying about my own next post to worry about what did some person with 3 followers who's reposting my stuff do. I don't care. Who cares? That's at least my opinion. Now, I don't think that people should do it. I don't recommend it. But when people do it to me, who cares?
And then what about copycat accounts? For some reason, I got like stuck in this, like, oh my God, what if people start copying my stuff and like making fake accounts of me? I'm sure that happens to you a lot.
Surprisingly, not as much. I see it super commonly happening in like the financial spaces because it's much easier to scam someone who's, in a financial space, or following an account in a financial space, I should say. I'm sure there are copycat accounts, but because of the Meta verified now where people can pay to be blue checked, I was verified prior to that. So I've been verified for, I think, 6 years now. And because of that, I think people are less willing to copy me, or when they do copy me, it's much more obvious that like, oh, well, this one has a blue check mark and this one doesn't. And so it's more obvious to people. But even that, I'm sure that every single day there are fake Brock Johnson accounts made. I haven't noticed one or seen one or cared about one in months, probably actually in years. And so it's, again, one of those things where I'm like, it's going to happen. It's just part of the territory. It's part of showing up on social media. And so there's nothing really I can do.
Okay, let's talk about the blue check. I haven't paid for the blue check yet because I just don't think people care enough yet, right? Like no one's going to copy what I'm doing. Who cares? Like, why spend the money every month when I can put that money towards something else? What point should I start caring? Which point should I be like, maybe I should be blue check verified?
I think it's less about people aren't going to copy me yet, so I don't need it. And I think more so the blue check provides a piece of social credibility. It used to be this person's a famous celebrity. Now, when I see a blue check, at least, and I'm curious what like everyone listening would think. But when I see a blue check, I think, oh, this person's taking their Instagram seriously. This person really cares. Not that when I don't see it, I think, oh, they're not taking it seriously.
Thank you.
But there is that added, okay, this is the legitimate account. They're taking it seriously. They're putting forth literal money to get the best possible outcomes and protections for their account. And so that's kind of how I view it. And I'd be curious if there was like a widespread study done to see how do people in general, and I'm sure it varies platform to platform, but how do people in general view the blue check?
I'll let you know if it changes too. If it changes something in how people are watching and consuming it, I'm curious because it's like, do I put the money down or not? I do.
And is it just a subconscious thing that like they don't even notice that they're interacting differently, or is there a conscious decision when they see the blue check? I don't know, but I'd be interested to see a study on that.
Does Instagram give blue check people? They did push their content out a little bit more.
They don't. There are a lot of people, whenever I make a post about the blue check, people will flood my comments with anecdotal evidence of, I joined Meta Verified and my views tanked. And what I always say is, from the studies we've done, and this is true, from the studies we've done, from the numbers we've looked at, there is no correlation between becoming Meta Verified and any sort of change in views. We see that it has no impact on either positively or negatively in terms of your reach. Of course, there are plenty of people who have experiences that suggest otherwise. I don't want to invalidate their experiences, but the average is no, getting blue checked will not change anything.
Okay. One of my last questions to you is trends, right? Because trends are huge. And I know some people are averse to doing something trending, but I feel like my brain is oversaturated. Maybe it's just my feed with the B-roll and the graphics over it. I'm almost like, okay, I get it. And then so many people are copying each other. I'm like, I literally just saw that same exact graphic with you just copied the thing. Like it's horrifying to me now. I'm just like, it's not enjoyable. It's making it annoying to me. Are we going to keep that trend, which is fine, but like, where are we moving towards? Where do we see this all going?
I hope we're moving away from that trend. I posted a few over the last few weeks times about like my predictions, my trends for 2025. And just yesterday, I posted one where I suggested that this is a trend that's on its way out. Part of that is not so much that I think that it is as much as I hope that it is.
Yes.
And I do think that it is, but mainly I hope that it is because it's boring, it's redundant, it's gamifying and gimmicking the algorithm. And in some ways it can be done well. It can be done, in a helpful way, but in most cases it's being done to trick the algorithm and to, take advantage of your followers. And it's essentially Instagram Reels version of clickbait on YouTube.
1,000%.
That's kind of how I view it.
I love that.
Yeah. And so what I hope is going to happen, what I hope is going to replace that is 10 to 30 second videos. I don't think Instagram is going to embrace 60-second plus videos anytime soon, but 10 to 30 second videos that are more original. Now, that could be your original voice talking to camera. That could be your creative idea, your unique interpretation of trends. I do think, and I do hope that that is what's going to become the dominant sort of content, the content that we're seeing the most of, kind of like on TikTok. Like, the early days of TikTok, 2019, 2020, you would scroll and it would be like the same audio, the same background Dua Lipa song like 17 times in a row. It's not that way anymore. It's a much more organic and natural feed over on TikTok. And so I hope that Instagram, trends in that direction as well.
I hope so too. I just felt like it was almost like lazy, like somebody
it is very lazy content. And in some ways it's helpful because if you're brand new, if you're just getting started, it can be a way to kind of dip your toe in the water and learn the skills of content creation with like an easier, lower barrier.
But follow it up with something else. Yeah. Don't just make that your whole brand, right? Like, great, that got eyes on you. What are you going to follow that up with? Tell me the story. Yeah. Tell me your why. People buy the why, not the what. And so it's like, that can't be your whole brand, or these little 5-second like B-roll videos with graphics. 100%. Like, you have to think outside of that box. Okay, great. It got you follows and shares and oh my God, all the numbers. What are you going to do with that attention now?
100%.
Oh God, sorry. It's like, oh my God. All right. Where can we push people to? Are we doing Instagram Club Hub? Like, what do you want people to go to find you? They love you, all of this. I'm going to sign up as an affiliate so I can make money off of it. Because I do believe in it. Yeah. I believe in the program. I believe in your message. I love how easy you make it. And it's that content calendar is like worth all the money that I paid to be a part of that club. Incredible.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. That was a big focus of ours in 2024 was creating that content calendar and truly providing something that honestly no one else can, which is a personalized content calendar for each of our 6,000-ish members every single month. That's something we worked really, really hard on developing. And so, that's a huge part of the club. For anyone who would like to check out the club, we'll put the link in the show notes. But the InstaClubHub is what I like to say, the last Instagram resource you'll ever have to pay for. You'll never need another coach, a course, or a membership ever again, based off what we give you on a weekly, on a monthly, on an annual basis. You'll never have to worry about Instagram again. Let us do the work to figure out what works on Instagram, Let us tell you exactly what to do. And then you just press the buttons. The only thing that we don't do in the InstaClubHub, we don't press the buttons for you. We're not an agency. We're not going to create the video for you, but we'll tell you exactly what video to create. So that's the InstaClubHub. But if anyone wants to check that out, again, we'll link it up in the show notes. But if anyone just wants to continue getting some free tips and value and maybe some funny, relatable memes, my Instagram is Brock11Johnson, and it's a great place to connect.
I love that. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your energy
Well,
today.
you give so much value. And I think a lot of people are so scared to give the value. It's like, no, just give it away. Just give it away and they'll come to you. It will come to you exponentially. And I think people are just scared to do that. And I love that you're not.
I agree. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.